Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is the show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, and we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, you know exactly what to do. 5-star review on Spotify, like and subscribe over on YouTube, 5-star review and say something really nice about me and my incredible guest over on Apple Podcasts. And today, that is Dr. Juan Salinas. He's the founder and CEO of Perfect Life Nutrition, which is the manufacturer of Pnuff Crunch. He's a Rutgers alumni, just like myself, but he is a diploma of sports nutrition from the IOC. He also received some investment from Mark Cuban while on Shark Tank. Dr. Juan, how you doing today, man?
How's it going, brother? It's all about the 5 stars reviews, man. It's all about
Five
the 5 star
stars.
reviews.
Thank you so much. I'll clip that. I'll put that on the internet. Hopefully people will run with it. 5-star review, like, and subscribe. It's the easiest thing in
Love
the
it.
world. Helps me. I
I
appreciate
love
that,
it.
man. Thank you so much, Dr. Juan. I'm very excited to talk to you today about your delicious snack that you have going on, your fitness journey, your time at Rutgers, all the fun stuff that, maybe we'll take some of it offline, but some of the fun stuff that you did over at Rutgers. But more importantly, Dr. Juan, the first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
Oh, man. I grew up with sports, man. No, I love watching them, but I even love more practicing them. So to me, it's when I come down, man, after a long day of work. Then I hit the gym, do some sports, whether it's soccer or swimming, man, and that just kind of like sets me down for the night. I go to sleep like a baby. Never have any hard time sleeping.
Good for
And I
you,
love
man.
watching sports, man. It's just so exciting. I feel like it just brings it helps you forget about all your problems, man. And then you're just so engraved and interested into whatever you're watching, and everything else doesn't matter anymore, which is really cool.
Unless your biggest problems are from sports, right? I'm a Mets fan, so
Oh,
my biggest
okay.
problems are being a Mets fan, man. That's the worst part.
I was lucky enough that my dad was a Yankee fan,
There you
so
go.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, don't feel sorry for me. One of these days, man, one of these days I'll be happy. But until then, we keep moving with it. But no, man, I think it's so important, right, for people to understand, like especially again with your fitness journey, which we're gonna get into for a second. The act of being active, right? So many people don't realize it. So many people don't do enough. You wonder why you don't fall asleep at night. Well, it's because you're not that tired. Yeah, you might have put in a lot of mental work, but physically, you sat in a chair and you maybe went on a 20-minute walk. Like, go do something. Get out. Touch some grass, right?
Exactly, man. That's the worst part, right? When your mind's just going, and then forget it. How are you gonna sleep like that, man? When your mind's going like that, you gotta get your body tired, the blood pumping, man, and then everything just comes together and just fall asleep like a baby.
Fall right asleep like a baby, man. I love it. Good stuff. So, talk to me a little bit about your fitness journey. I know you're a big fitness guy. Again, you're a doctor, if I'm not mistaken, of food science at Rutgers. Are you rah rah? We'll talk
Yeah.
about Rutgers in a second. But where did your love of fitness come from, and why is this such an important piece of your life that you went and started a company based around it?
Yeah, so I started swimming when I was like 8 years old back in Honduras. Was part of the swimming team there, which is it's a whole story how I even started swimming because my dad kind of pushed me into it, and I just didn't want to do it. I want to hang out with my friends, and he was like, "You got to try it, and if you don't like it after a week, it's like I'll be the first one to let you do whatever you want." And guess what, man? I loved it. I love swimming, and I swam for the Honduran national team eventually, right? Which is kind of cool. Not a big team, but we went to Central America and did our little things there. So that's kind of how I started, getting into sports. And then at Rutgers, man, I visited the dungeon, the gym over at the old gymnasium there. We used to call it the dungeon, and it was just so sweaty and dirty, man. But I just loved it, I felt like that was me right there. And I started seeing changes in my body as I was doing, bench presses and shoulder presses with my friends. And I was like, oh man, I really love this. So I really got into the whole workout, and then as part of that is the nutrition, like what do I need to eat to get bigger? I wanted to get bigger. I was a little skinny guy. So I wanted to be huge. And I was reading all these muscle and fitness magazines, man, and it's telling me all about food and stuff. So I'm like, oh man, I got to study more about that. And that's why I ended up doing a food science. That's why I'm a food scientist. But now I do bodybuilding. I've been doing that for about 10 years now, which I love. I figured I got to do something with all those workouts that I'm doing every day. But I also started doing some running. That's what it was about. I did some marathons and triathlons just to take, some of that swimming that I used to do. So, I got into cycling and all that stuff. So a little bit of everything, but I continue to do bodybuilding. Man. That's my thing right now.
Good for you, man. Bodybuilding and running marathons. Usually those don't go hand in hand,
Yeah,
but
I
kudos and
know.
congratulations to you, man. I also just want to point out a fact, right? Like, so you're going to the gym. You're probably starting to look good for some of the co-eds on Rutgers campus. A lot of very pretty women there. I enjoyed my time when I was there. And
Yes.
would you just so happen you enjoyed yourself so much you actually wanted to then pursue this as a career path, right? You're just trying to look good. You're just trying to be, look like a good looking dude, and ends up that's your career moving forward. How funny is that?
That was my, trust me, man. That was my incentive in college, man. I wanted to look good for the ladies, man. That's the truth. I was a skinny guy, and I was like, I got to get bigger, man. No one's paying attention to me.
I love it, dude. I appreciate the honesty too, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, Rutgers was a fun time. I'm glad you had a lot of fun. You spent a little
Yeah,
more time in the gym. I'll give you that, but I'm sure we both had a good time. So, did they have the grease trucks there still? Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
backhand.
you were bodybuilding. You were in the gym all the time. You were a food science major, but on the weekends you're still going to the grease trucks, right?
Of course, man.
Okay, all right. All right. You got to enjoy it too, right? Why do you put all the work in if you're not going to go enjoy it?
I wanted to get bigger, man. What better way than, a nice fat cat at 12 o'clock,
There you go. 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
midnight.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, I love it, man. I think it's just so again, like I'm poking fun, but I think it's really important for people like just to understand. Like we get into sports in all these weird different ways. There's a ton of different ways to actually end up in sports, and yours was just kind of a tongue in cheek, a funny story. But then you end up loving the fact that hey, you can physically see your body change, and then you want to find out ways to improve that. If you should be one thing, you should be efficient, right? So it's
Right.
what you're eating, what you're putting in your body, how much you're doing that is then making even those changes bigger. I guess in your time like at Rutgers and then kind of the time soon after, what does that career path look like prior to becoming an entrepreneur and starting your own company? What does that career path look like when you are a food scientist? Are you working at major, pharmaceutical companies? Are you working at Kraft? Like how exactly are you taking advantage of becoming a doctor in the space?
Yeah. So, I mean, my dream was always to come out with a product that I could see on the shelves in the supermarket. That's what I always wanted to do. So, my first job was at Nabisco. So this is the kind of companies that food scientists get, sort of like working with food companies that make stuff that you see on supermarkets. We're the guys behind it. So I started at Nabisco and I worked on a whole bunch of cookies and crackers and things like that.
Oh, perfect. That's
Just,
exactly what you wanted to
just
do,
on
right?
my idol, of course. But then I worked for Cadbury and they owned a brand called Trident, chewing gum and, Dentyne. So I worked with gum. And then I went to Nestle and I started work. This was cool. Nestle was cool because I started working with athletes. I worked for the performance nutrition division, which was Power Bar. You remember the Power Bars? So they created the Power Bars. Actually, they created the whole bar category. If you think about it, they were the first ones. They just didn't evolve, you know, and so they die. But we were creating a lot of really cool nu- nutritious products specifically for athletes. So we got to work with some of the Olympic teams over in Australia and so test some of our hypotheses, and, in terms of like stuff that we were putting into products that they were consuming, when they weren't doing exercise or in competition. So that was kind of cool. And during that time, I was so interested in it that I got my diploma in sports nutrition from the Olympic Committee. And I wanted to learn more about, what were the real requirements, physical requirements of an athlete in terms of nutrition and exercise. And, I wanted to put that into a product, over when I was working at Nestle. So that was my whole thing. So that was a really cool gig for me. And that was all before I started my own company.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. Yeah, cookies and crackers, again, doesn't really quite sound like right up your aisle. Gum is, hey, you like gum, you don't. It is what it is. But it sounds like, again, once you get to, it was Nestle, right? Correct?
Yeah, Nestle.
Nestle, yeah. When you get there and you actually start getting to kind of sink your teeth in, for lack of a better term, into the
Yeah.
opportunity to work with athletes to help them. As you said, you were kind of, quote unquote experiments. I'm sure everything was above board, but like how much of it was you guys had all these different prototypes essentially. You give them to the athletes and then it kind of just see what their performance looked like the next days, weeks, months. How exactly do you even go about having those types of studies, especially with such an elite team like an Olympic team?
Yeah, no, I mean the study we work together with the nutritionists over at the different, teams. So they were in charge of making sure that, they were providing specific amounts of whatever is it that we're working on to the athletes at whatever specific times, So they provided all the data back to us and said, yeah, this stuff actually works, or this stuff doesn't work. Some of the cool things I used to do, because I work with Power Bar over in Australia too, and they have a more like a muscle brand over there. It's called Musashi. And a lot of, over there's a lot of big dudes that play football and they play rugby. So, what was cool about it in the company, there was a gym and it was free for all the rugby players. And they used to come in and train there because it was like, more private. And we used to take advantage and go and have them taste some of our products, and kind of give us quick feedback in terms of flavor or how they felt after, they worked out and things like that. So we did some of that kind of research also directly with the athlete, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, you need that feedback, right? If it
Yeah,
tastes like crap, no one's going to want to eat it. So it doesn't matter how great it is for you. If it doesn't taste good, why is anyone going to try it? So it's cool that
yeah.
you guys had that opportunity.
And trust me, we got a lot of positive, sometimes really negative feedback. I'll tell you a story about one that we did with a power bar gel. You know how on the gels you kind of have to rip them off and then you squeeze them into your mouth, right? So what was doing is that we're creating a lot of, it was kind of tough.
Hmm.
You see the athletes kind of running, breathing heavy, and like the little thing will get stuck sometime in their mouth, or they would just like be spitting around. Exactly. So we wanted to come up with a pouch that you didn't have to do that. So all you have to do, it was just squeeze it into your mouth and it would just pop right into it. So what we did is that we created this pouch that had a wick, kind of like a wick film in between the liquid and the mouth. So that whenever you put pressure on it, like squeeze it, that seal will break and the liquid will just come out. So now you can almost envision what happened when we did the testing with actual, cyclists. They were like, and they were told what they needed, how to use it. But when they were riding, they were just going like this, squeezing it right into their eye, you know, or they were like trying not to rip it. I was like, no, no, you don't have to rip it. They were like trying to rip it. It just didn't work. In reality, the concept was cool, but in reality, it didn't work. So we never launched it, you know. So that's part of the research that we have to do to make sure that it's not only, what we think is usable, but then does it actually work with the athlete on the actual time when they're gonna use it, and it didn't work.
It is funny, right? Like you think it's a great idea. It sounds like a great idea. The way you explain it makes sense. But yeah, it just doesn't work with the athletes, right? They're
No.
used to one thing. They don't understand the concept. They're in the middle of running or cycling, as you said, and they don't, what do I do? Oh my god! And then you just squeeze your right in your
Yeah.
face. Yeah, it's just like it's funny how sometimes it seems so obvious,
Right.
and then you get there and you're like, wait, this just doesn't work at all, unfortunately. And maybe
Exactly.
it's because of what they were used to in the past. Maybe it's because it's in practice not as easy. But it's a pretty good story. Just kind of
Yeah.
understanding like it's not as easy as it sounds, I guess, in what you guys are doing.
Yeah. That's why you always have to test your hypothesis.
Yep.
No matter how simple you think it is, people will make it complicated.
Yeah, people are always making assume everyone's pretty stupid. No offense to anyone out there, but just assume everyone's stupid and you're going to get a lot further. So I think it's really interesting, right? So you talk about these multiple places you've been and you kind of landed. Was the goal always to work with athletes in your case and work on like the power bar side on the sports nutrition side, or was that just where you got to and you just ended up falling in love with it?
Man, I dreamt of working for a company like that. There was another company called EAS. I used to send my resume to them all the time. That was like my favorite company, because they were making products for bodybuilders. And back in the days, they had like the big names, signed with them, like the Mr. Olympia and all that stuff. I'm like, oh man, I want to work with these guys, man. Like I want to create products for the Mr. Olympia. But they never gave me a chance, man. So when I got this gig over a power bar, it wasn't right down, my best, like, they're more of endurance sports kind of company rather than muscle building. But, I was lucky enough that they actually had a division that was doing some of that work with bodybuilders and, trying to gain more muscle and weight than just running. But then I just fell in love with the running part of it. That's why I started running and doing all
I
these
was gonna
games.
say
It was
now
just like,
now you're endurance, right? Now you're running
yeah,
marathons.
then it was cool, but I lost all my size. Like I went like really skinny, and I was like, oh man, I don't like the way I look, but I'm enjoying running. This is cool.
Well, it seems like you found a pretty happy medium at this point. So
Yeah.
that's the important part. And so you've always wanted to work with athletes in some capacity. It sounds like you got that opportunity. When did you decide, or did you think it was the right idea for you to go and start your own company and your own product? How long was this kind of cooking up in the back of your head for?
For a while, ever since I was making cookies, because I always be like, oh man, it's like we could make this cookie with protein, like Oreos. What if we put protein in the
Just
middle
put
of it?
protein in them. Yeah, I'd eat
Like
those. They're
make it
delicious.
a more nutritious product, right? I was always kind of like running things like that on my head, and that wasn't in line with what the companies were doing at the time. And nutrition wasn't really something that they care about. They were mostly, hey, if it tastes good, let's launch it. And that's what we used to do. We used to test products, with consumers and just ask them that question, you like it? Does it taste good? Will you buy it? And if it was yes, 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 okay, let's do it. There was no questions about, hey, do you think there's, this, how's the nutrition of this product? What do you think of the ingredients? None of that. So that was always something that I wanted to get into, and I wasn't able to do it through the company. So, decided to do my own and do it.
What was it like going out on your own and saying, you know what, I got a good paying job, don't want that anymore. Let me go out and try and create my own thing.
Yeah, man, that was a hard decision. I'm a Catholic boy, so I went to church for a week straight. And it's just me like, come on, I need to receive that light, and what is it? Am I gonna do this thing, or am I gonna continue in the path of a career, a corporate? And I don't know, man. I felt something in my heart that day, and it's like, you got to follow your heart, man. You got to go for it. And I did, without thinking too much about it. I said, all right, I'm doing it.
Hey, look at that! I love it. Good stuff. Yeah, pick those up. I want show the camera. We'll get those. So this is the product, right? Is that the cheddar jalapeno?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
this is
stuff's
good.
delicious. So I want to thank you. I want to thank Ross. Ross is the
Yeah, man.
absolute best. I got a little bit of peanut, cheddar jalapeno. I got barbecue peanut. Makes sense. I think what else? Cocoa and cinnamon. So I got a bunch of different flavors. They all taste delicious. Cheddar jalapeno. I knew it was gonna be my favorite. It ended up being my favorite. It was absolutely delicious. So about the product specifically, one more time, Pnuff Crunch. What did you always have this idea for the product? Was this always something when you went out and did your own thing, you knew exactly what you were going to do, or did you have a lot of research and a lot of kind of multiple ideas, and this is the one you landed on?
Yeah, what I knew was about the nutrition. So I knew what the nutrition should be like. What I didn't know is what format I was gonna put it on. So actually, before I came up with this product, I had another one that I called Squeeze Me Lean, which was sort of like the idea of the pouch that I was talking to you about. But it was supposed to be some, almost like the texture of a gelatin, but it had all the protein and the right carbohydrate mix and all that stuff in it. But it was, I got it pretty far actually, but then I had some issues with manufacturing. It was just too complicated. So I decided to switch at that point, and I was at one of the trade shows that is it's a pretty large trade show where a lot of ingredient companies come and present their ingredients and their ideas. And I was walking through one that was a peanut supplier, and they had like a little nugget, you know, and they told me that they have been working with this other company on this thing, and it was just very early prototype. Kind of tasted like crap a little bit, to be honest with you. But they say, but it has got this really good nutrition on it because it's protein from peanuts and all this stuff. And that just kind of gave me the idea. I was like, wait a minute, okay, what if I take that and combine it with some other plant proteins to create this complete protein, that is equivalent to like whey, because whey is like the ultimate protein, right? For bodybuilders and for anybody. And but plants usually lack some of those amino acids. So I was like, okay, peanuts is good. Everybody likes it. The protein is good, but it's not complete. So I got to combine it with some other stuff. And I started doing some research, and I found out about the amino acids profiles of beans and brown rice, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I could actually complement all these amino acids and create this really cool profile that is now a complete protein. Man, all that went into my head, and I'm like, all right, man, I'm so excited. I'm like, what am I going to do with this thing? And, I started researching about different formats, and, the format of a texture, crunchy puff was like, wait, I should be able to do that with beans and with peanuts, So I started doing, some trials around that, and I came out with that, the product that you see today.
That is
So,
awesome, man.
yeah. So it all started with, just the nutrition profile. And then, what format should I use to put it in there? Obviously, the first thing that went through my mind was bars, right? But then I was like, man, there's like a million bars. Everybody has a bar. So it's like, it's got to be something unique that is not existent so that, it kind of is new innovation. And that was the difficult part, to find that format. But I think this was a pretty cool format to put it on.
Yeah, I think you did a great job again. Absolutely fantastic product. It's for anybody out there listening or watching, it's kind of like obviously the nutrition's a little different, but almost like Pirate's Booty. Like kind of almost that like fluffy kind of nugget, as you called it before, like that crunchy, almost like popcorn, but a little bit different. So it's absolutely fantastic product. Peanut definitely comes through. So if you like peanut, this is perfect for you. I can guarantee that. I didn't taste any beans. I'm not a big bean guy, so I appreciate you for that one, Dr. Juan. So that was great. And so I guess like when you have this product, you put it together, what does that process look like? So you're able to put it together. Like, who do you even go to? How do you start talking to people and being like, hey, I have all this stuff. Like, can you just like kind of pop it together for me? Like, how does that piece of it work? Because I feel like that's got to be the most difficult part. You had the idea, the profiles there, the amino acids, as you said, the proteins there. Now you put it, you have the idea for this puff. Who do you go to? Like, how does that even work?
And you mentioned it before. I mean, the first thing that I've learned from working at these big CPG companies is all about flavor. People will not buy something that tastes like crap. I don't care how good it is. Maybe some really hardcore person will do that. But most of the people, if it tastes bad, they're not going to buy it again. So my first hurdle was to understand whether this stuff tasted good, and what would be the response of people when they tried it. So I didn't have a lot of money, so I kind of figured out that I could ask my friend who was a teacher at a high school and say, hey man, what if I come to the high school and talk to your students? I could tell them a little bit about sport science and like nutrition, and if you let me do a little test on them, at the end of it. And she was like, sure, why not? Absolutely, man.
Teachers deserve to get paid more money, man.
I don't tell you. Oh, and she's like, oh, you'll save me a day of lecture, so yep, absolutely, just come over.
Totally, that's awesome.
So I took over every class, and what I did is I developed just a sheet, that had some questions in it. And it was all about the flavor, the balance of the flavors, and will you buy it, or will you ask your mom to buy it? And I think I had about 150 or something students participate, in different classes. So I had enough data to do some statistics on it, and I did the statistics, man. I'm like, I worked with mini Oreo before, right? I worked in the development of it, and I have all that data, and I was like, oh shit, it's like my numbers are at par with like mini Oreo. I'm like, this is gonna be a winner. This is gonna be good, So I felt confident at that time. Okay, now I feel like I have a good product, tasty product. Now it's like, okay, you got to sell it. Like how is the buyers at the groceries gonna respond to it? And for that, there's a big trade show over in California. It's a natural show, and that's where a lot of the buyers come from the different companies. And I had a booth there and started just, I only have one flavor, just the original, and I started kind of sharing samples with them and kind of just paying attention to the reaction and to see if they would be like, all right, I want to place an order. And it was a success. I mean, I was really happy with the results of it. And that was kind of how it all started right there.
That's awesome,
Just like
man.
that.
I love it. Going out on a limb, doing some tests on some high schoolers doesn't get any better than that, Dr. Juan. Doesn't get any better than that. Yeah, sure. You saved me a bunch of time today. Hey, just ask them any questions you want. I love that. Shout out your teacher friend. That is awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you get the opportunity. You as you called it a success, right? You go to that trade show. You have enough people at least. Pnuff people at least to place an order, so I think that's pretty important. Where does Shark Tank come into this whole thing? Because as I said in the beginning, it's a piece that I want to talk about. You have some investment from Mark Cuban. You went on Shark Tank. I guess how A, did you even find or get that opportunity, and then B, what has it been like since you've gotten that investment?
Yeah, so I got a call. I was in my way to San Francisco for another trade show, and I got a call from someone, unknown number. I usually don't pick up, but for some reason I just picked that up. And it was like this person from like tells me it's from Shark Tank. I'm like, wait, I might listen to it, right?
Is this
Like
real? I
Shark
don't
Tank, like the
what?
show, like this is a prank or something. And she was started laughing. It's like, no, for real. It's like, we're like you to be, to see if you would like first of all, if you're interested, and then we'll proceed with some of whatever they do. I was like, hell yeah, of course. And I started thinking back, it's like, how the hell do you even know that? Right? Because I didn't go to one of those in-person,
Hmm.
um, things that they do, like people go in person
Audition.
and they present their stuff. Auditions, exactly. Thank you. And I didn't go to audition, but I did remember that I did apply online for it, and I just forgot about it. I just applied and forgot. So thinking back, it was like 2 years before that I had applied. So I had completely forgotten about it. So when I got that call, I was just like, it was mind blowing. And then after that, the preparation for the show, as you can imagine, a lot of paperwork, a lot of preparation for it. It probably amounts to a good 3 months of preparation
Wow.
before you even go in it. And then, once you're in it, it's just like you you're just so anxious, man. You just want to go in front of them, but at the same time, you're like, "Oh crap," like I don't want to mess up in front of like everybody here. So you got to memorize that pitch. I couldn't memorize it. I'm terrible at memorizing. I'm like, how am I gonna do this, man? Every time I say it, it sucks. you know. And so I was like, oh man, this is gonna be bad. But I started reading online. I was like, you know what? Stop worrying too much about what you're gonna say, and just say it in your own words. It doesn't matter how it comes out as long as you're saying what you think you should be saying. And I was like, all right, and I just thinking, you know what? I'm just gonna do that. And now you saw the show, right? It came out kind of good.
It
Now
worked.
there's editing, of course. There's a lot of there's there was a part when I was doing the pitch, and where I have a lab coat, because I'm a doctor and I got this fake glasses because I don't use glasses, and I'm taking them out and saying, yeah, um, I'm not just, almost like remember that commercial that was, I'm just not a user, but I'm also a client. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just not, but I'm not just a doctor, but I'm also a professional bodybuilder. I just go like that and open up. And at the time, I was ripped. I have been doing like this diet that I usually do when I do bodybuilding competition. So everybody in the room started laughing, you know, hysterically. Even the camera people were laughing. So I couldn't go on anymore because everybody was just laughing. This happened for about, like a minute. And of course, they were like laughing, doing comments among themselves and shit like that. So then they were like, fine, everybody calm down, go on. I'm like, Like, go on. I was like, fuck, where was I? I couldn't remember where I was. Then, like,
This
like
was
I
it.
had to start all over from the beginning.
That's funny.
But that's why, Mark Cuban is so cool, man. The guy was just like, he told me exactly the line my last line, he just freaking said it to me. And I was like, thank you. And I just kept going after that. And so, I always wanted to, if I was going to land a shark, I wanted to be Mark. I think he's the best shark in my mind. And he has some really cool brands that are, plant-based, like my brand. So, I was lucky enough, man, that he was interested. He's actually tried the product before. Um, his wife actually had bought it at one of the local, supermarkets, and she put it in the pantry. He came late at night, and he was hungry. He didn't know what the hell this thing was, but he tried it. He said he ate the whole bag. And the next day, his wife was like, "What the fuck happened to my bag?"
So they went and bought some more. Lucky you, man. No, I
Yeah,
love
so,
it. You said you're lucky. We're going to take that word. You worked really hard and you did really great. You were awesome. You were fantastic. You made everyone laugh. You were not lucky. You did the work that deserved to be done there.
yeah.
So you get Mark Cuban to invest in the company. I mean, the authority that comes with him, right? The kind of the what's the word I want to look for? Like the realness, I guess. Not the word I'm looking for, but I'm not going to sit here the whole time trying to figure it out. Like, what is that like when you have someone like him invest in your company, and now in all your pitch decks, right? Now, anytime you have the product up anywhere, it's Mark Cuban holding a bag, and it's his face. Like, how have you seen the improvement in the product, not just from a dollars and cents standpoint, but just from an authoritative standpoint, and from a standpoint of, hey, no, we have some real investors. This is a real company. We're doing some real shit. Like, how
Yeah.
much has that helped?
Yeah, oh man, it's crazy because people say, right, how good is a Shark Tank for you? And I would say, well, there's two things, right? There's the Shark Tank, which is the show, and then it's the actual investment that you have with the shark. So there's two things going on. The Shark Tank itself is awesome. I mean, because even if I didn't get a deal, the amount of publicity that you get just from being Shark Tank is amazing, you know? And forget about sales. I mean, when I went online, when I went on the show live, I have a ding on my phone every time there's a sale. This thing was like, I felt like I was in Atlantic City, man. It was like ding, 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 ding. I was like, oh my God, this is the first time it's ever happened. I was like, how am I going to fulfill? This is the first thing I thought, right? How am I going to do all these orders? How am I going to fulfill these orders? And I just kept going. I was like, stop. And then the West Coast, first the East Coast and then
Yep.
West Coast. So you get two waves. So it's amazing, right? And then and it continues to give because they have reruns, every I don't know 2 3 months. So every 2 3 months we start seeing the same thing on my phone. I'm like, oh shit, there's a Shark Tank episode being shown right now. And then Mark Cuban is as an investor and his company. Obviously, it has a lot of weight now when I go and talk to a buyer for a supermarket or something. When we go in and we say, oh, yeah, you know, Mark Cuban is one of the investors, then they're like, okay, tell me more. Hey, can we have Mark Cuban say something about the product, for without a store? This is usually the question we get. It definitely just by having his name is already a plus. And then obviously, he's got an awesome team that we work with. We work with him as well, not on a daily basis, like not even like how we're talking right now, but we provide, like, we have to do reports of this bit of, state of the business, and he will read them and then he'll comment on things, like, hey, what about this? Or if I'm stating a problem, let's try to help, with some ideas and things like that. So the relationship has been pretty good. I'm very happy that happened to us. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, kudos and congratulations. It pays to make people laugh, I guess. So that's always pretty important. It helps that his wife bought the product and he enjoyed it very much. I think that's a very important piece of it too. But
You're not gonna tell me that's luck? Come on, man. That's not
no
talent.
such thing. No
That's
way.
luck.
That's all talent, dude. You made a great product. That's what it comes down to. You didn't make a good product, you would have never got the money. But no, I love it, man. I think it's awesome. And so with that, right? So now you have this investment from Mark Cuban. You get your dings on your phone all the time, every time when they throw a rerun up of Shark Tank, right? So what are the next things that you're looking at? I know you have a fitness and diet program that you currently have that people can check out if I'm not mistaken. So please let us know where. But like, what are the other things? How do you build the halo around this fantastic product that you've already made?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, you could probably tell just for my background and what I have done so far. You mentioned the fitness program, the product itself. Everything to me is about that. It's about how can I help you, be the best part of yourself, at any age. I'm 54 years old, man. You
Good
know?
for you.
Yeah, so it's like, but I've been like exercising all my life. I'm watching my diet and all this stuff, and you know, I'm still competing and winning, at 50. It's like, I tell people, man, you could be your best, in your 40s and 50s, and so I want to continue in that path of creating some sort of value, for people, to help people, achieve their best, whether it's through more products. I've been thinking about another line of products similar to this, but more directed to the morning, so something nutritious that people can have in the morning. Um, and then, more addition to flavors and things like that. Right now we have a sweet version of peanut, and then we have a savory version of peanut. So now it's like, hey, if I'm craving something sweet, you can grab, a cocoa with cinnamon. But if I'm craving something salty, now you can go for a jalapeno or a barbecue, So we're trying to hit different times of the day, where if you have that craving, man, just have something good, man, instead of like grabbing some crappy stuff, like at least get some protein in, and get some good carbs in there and feel good about what you just had. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Hopefully we'll get into a little more, you know, one-on-one. I'd love to get more one-on-one with people in terms of, whatever it is, whether it's, advice in terms of training and nutrition, or, help communities, you know, kind of turn more into being active and exercise and things like that. I just haven't had the time to do all that stuff, man. I'm up to that right now.
Running the
Like
business, man.
up
Yeah,
there,
you
yeah,
got a lot of shit going on, but I
good
think it's
stuff.
awesome. I think the way you're thinking about the flavors makes sense, right? At night, I'm not really trying to eat cheddar jalapeno. I want to eat chocolate. So,
Right.
it's just kind of one of those things. During the middle of the day, yeah, that's where I want my savory, my salty. But then at
Right.
night, I want my dessert. And it's
Yeah.
probably better for me to eat some cocoa Pnuff Crunch than it is for me to have some
Right.
chocolate ice cream, right? It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Pretty easy where you're coming from. So
And
no,
now
I
the
think it's great.
morning, everybody's in a rush in the morning, man.
Yep.
You don't have time to sit down and have, eggs and everything, served to you hot, right?
Bacon
So
flavored. Are you looking at bacon flavored?
I like that one,
I
man.
don't know. That's
I like
breakfast if you
that.
ask
I'm gonna
me.
have
It
to put
sounds
that one
delicious.
down.
Yeah, and then you can
I'm gonna
crunch
have
it
to
up
put
and
that
throw
one
it on
down.
your hamburger or something. You could also do some other stuff with it. Take that one. I'll give you that one for free, man. Don't worry about it. But no, Dr. Juan, this has been absolutely fantastic. Where can we buy some Pnuff Crunch? Where can we learn more about you and some of the stuff that you're doing, especially this diet program? Tell us. I'll put all the links in the show notes for everyone as well.
Yeah. Easiest way to find it is Amazon, of course, and our website, which if you put it down there,
Yeah,
it's
I'll put it in there too.
peanuts.com. But yeah, and there's what you can find there the fitness plan too, and it's free, you know. So if you want to check that out too, feel free to download it. And there's some really cool tips there about exercise and nutrition. Um, yeah, and we have a map in our website also for store locators. We're not much in retail right now, other than Texas and now in New Jersey. But hopefully we're gonna be expanding, into other states soon.
Are you in ShopRite? Because I live in New Jersey. So,
Yeah, that's
all
where
right.
we're starting with ShopRite this
There we
month.
go. I love it. I can't. I
I think
can't wait to see
jalapeno
it.
is gonna be one of them.
Let's go. I can't wait to see it in the store, man. I'll take a picture. I'll send it to you. I think that's awesome.
Awesome.
But Dr. Juan, this has been absolutely fantastic. Sincerely appreciate you coming on, explaining a little bit about what you're doing, how you're trying to help people in a delicious and nutritious way. It doesn't get any better than that. I appreciate the backstory as well. But other than that, man, appreciate your time. It's the only thing we don't get more of. So thank you for yours. I appreciate the audience for giving us some of theirs. But hope you have a great rest of your
Yeah.
day. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, man. This is awesome, man. Appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Pleasure was all mine. Bye, everybody. Thank you.